I agree, Brendan. I think inflation is a really important thing to look at, which is why I think we also need to examine the chain type PCE. This is personal consumption expenditure, and it's the amount we spend on goods and services that make up GDP. It's what the FOMC uses as its primary measure of inflation. So this graph shows chain type PCE from 2001, and you can easily see the deflationary period we experienced during the recession. But right now, inflation is moderate, and we're not really seeing increased pressure.
Mara, do you think this is a better measure than CPI?
You know, Gretchen, I do. PCE is a chained index, so it compares one quarter's price to the last quarter's, and I just think it gives a better view of what's actually happening with inflation. So now that we've examined all of our indicators, this leads us to the federal funds rate. You can see the federal funds rate since 2001, but it's important to note that since December of 2008, we've been at the low target level between 0 and 0.25%. In a recent FOMC statement from November 2nd said that we're expected to keep these low target rates through at least mid-2013. This set target provides a sense of stability and predictability for lending institutions.
Well, why can't we lower the Fed funds rate? I mean, I know it's already at 0.25, but why can't we lower it down to 0?
Well, Blake, if the federal funds rate was set at 0%, the Fed would lose some of its ability to affect nominal interest rates. This could also lead to higher inflation. They primarily use open market operations in order to control the federal funds rate, and in the past, others that challenge teams have just had to answer, should we lower this rate, raise it, or keep it the same? Right now, we don't really have that option, so it's up to us to find some unique policy solutions. Anyone have suggestions?
All right, well, with the Fed funds rate already at 0 bound, why doesn't the Fed try quantitative easing?
Actually, Blake, they have tried quantitative easing. Since the recession began toward the end of 2007, there have been 2 rounds of quantitative easing. QE1 began in late November of 2008 and extended through March 2010. The Fed purchased $1.75 trillion in agency-backed securities and longer-term treasuries. The primary goals of this was to increase availability in the private markets, of credit in the private markets, and to revitalize mortgage lending and support the housing market. After the November 3rd, 2010 policy meeting, they announced the second round of quantitative easing. And so the second round extended from November 3rd, 2010 until June 30th of this year, where they purchased an additional $600 billion in long-term treasuries.
But what was the purpose of an additional large purchase of treasuries when the economy remained, kind of weak after the first round?
Well, the intention was to lower longer-term interest rates. Additional purchases were large enough to affect the market for longer-term treasury bonds, and this would push down their interest rate. QE2 was designed to complement the Fed's ongoing goal to keep interest rates low for an extended period of time, and also to work towards fostering economic growth through consumer spending and business investment.
I don't know, Gretchen. I'm just not sure this is the policy suggestion we should make. Perhaps we could try something a bit more subtle, such as just a statement from their Fed. In their most recent statement, they did say that we're experiencing moderate economic growth.
Well, Mara, I really think that they need to focus on more aggressive policies to tackle the high unemployment rate.
What we haven't ventured yet is Operation Twist, which the Fed initially tried in the 1960s as a tool of monetary policy.
Brendan, did that actually work? I mean, it affected bond rates slightly, but its effect on mortgage rates was even smaller.
Well, as you can see from the chart, the Fed's goal was to lower long-term interest rates for federal treasury bonds and converge them with short-term over a period of 5 years. We can see from 1961 to 1965 that the treasury rate did converge to about the similar rate, and this was used to increase their potential to lend.
If Operation Twist works, it'll decrease the long-term yield on long-term treasury notes, and this would decrease banks' incentives to invest in long-term treasury notes and hopefully increase their incentives to loan to consumers, giving consumers more borrowing and spending power, thus stimulating the economy.
But Marissa, isn't this just shifting money around in the economy? Banks aren't willing to lend now, so how will this even help?
There's not really another option. If anything, it would increase banks' incentives to lend, and everyone responds to incentives.
And on top of that, we've already started Operation Twist, so stopping now could only lead people to question the decisiveness of the Fed and maybe even lose faith in them.
Yeah, if Operation Twist works, it could prevent a double-dip recession, and shouldn't we try to further prevent that?
When discussing that, I think it's important to look at the mortgage rate. As we can see from this slide, in the past 10 years, the mortgage rate has dipped considerably, and especially since the recession is hitting almost record lows. A big problem is the housing market. What Operation Twist is attempting to do is encourage lending before the market hits its bottom, which it's in danger of doing.
I think we need to focus on the importance of allowing markets to operate freely and self-correct. The mortgage market is a market.
The Fed has this tool at its disposal, so I think that it should do everything it can to spur investment. Investment is an important part of the economy, especially in the housing market, and I believe that they should use Operation Twist in order to encourage lending.
But what if this increases inflation?
I can see the cause of warning in it, increased inflationary pressures as a possibility, but as Marissa pointed out in the capacity utilization slide, that there's definitely slack in the economy to account for this.
With the unemployment rate so high, we need to focus on policies that will bring this down to pre-recession times.
Gretchen, it's possible that the high unemployment is due to a rise in natural unemployment, and monetary policy won't really affect this.
We've not talked yet about what the government can do to affect the unemployment rate. They have the ability to tax and spend to create jobs in the economy.
That's fiscal policy, we need to say monetary.
You know, that's right. So unless there are any other concerns, I suggest that we just put it to a vote as to what our policy suggestion is going to be for the presentation. Gretchen, do you want to start us out?
Sure. Like I've mentioned throughout the presentation, I really think focusing on the unemployment rate and trying to figure out how to lower that is most important. So we need to focus on policies that will work towards this. And I just don't think Operation Twist is the solution to do that.
I would have to vote for Operation Twist because I think it'll increase banks' incentives to lend to consumers, and that's really what the economy needs right now.
I agree with Marissa. I think that Operation Twist is the best option for the Fed right now. I think that it won't have that major of an effect on inflation, and investment is an important part of the economy that we are lacking in right now. So I think that they have the opportunity to affect it, that they should.
I'm just not sure that if the natural unemployment rate has risen, Operation Twist is the correct policy suggestion to make.
All right, well, I guess it falls to me to make a decision here. You know, I think I have to go along with Operation Twist. The circulation of money will probably create competition between companies, which will spur economic growth in and of itself. And then when these companies start to see that their market shares are being depleted because they're not keeping up with their competitors, they're going to have to invest in everything. People, buildings, you know, research, everything. So ultimately, I think it will spur an economic boom. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I think that we've made our decision for a recommendation to the Fed tomorrow. I think that we're going to have to go ahead and suggest that Operation Twist is the best course of action. So we present early tomorrow morning, so everybody go home and get some sleep, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow.
Thank you.